Welcome to Championing Resiliency, a platform that highlights stories of strength, healing, and the courage to rise through adversity. So today we have Vanessa Iceton, who is a registered psychologist in Edmonton, Alberta, the founder and CEO of Pearl Psychological, and one of my dearest friends. A little background about Vanessa and I. So me and Vanessa, we met in our masters. We were each other's both first friends. And since that time, we've had a journey together in our professional lives and personal lives together too. We studied for our exams together, the EPPP. For anyone who isn't familiar with the EPPP, it's our licensing exam that we need to have. It's the exam required for anybody in North America to become a registered psychologist. We opened our businesses around the same time, and yeah, we've just become super close over the years. But Vanessa, let's start with you. Can you share a bit about you?
I own a private practice, and it's been exciting for the past 4 years, this journey to become an entrepreneur as well as become fully registered and kind of passing the licensing exam and then exponentially kind of just building up the private practice. I have a small team as well that works for me. And then, yeah, there's a lot more flexibility and a lot more time to do life things. Want the flexibility, and how do I achieve that? That was the goal, and so far life looks pretty good.
Okay, so when you think about your journey, what's an experience you might have had that had the biggest impact or an adversity you went through that's had the biggest impact on your mental health?
So as you kind of started with, it's the EPPP journey. That was a grueling kind of 6 years, and it was a challenging process for me. Ultimately, failing the exam 11 times, and then finally passing on the third and final time because they changed the licensing exam rules that you could only take it to a maximum of 3 times in 2023. So yeah, it was the third and 12th final time that I finally ended up passing. And just throughout that process and that journey, it was a lot about, learning about myself and understanding who I am and what was really driving me to continue to fail throughout those 6 years. And it wasn't until I finally figured that out that I finally was able to overcome it.
So in that last part, you were mentioning, until I figured out what I needed to overcome it. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so my whole life kind of, I guess, timeline, the belief that I had about myself just growing up would have been, I am a failure. And I always struggled in school. I didn't really kind of know where that came from. And it wasn't until I started kind of doing some reflecting in the regards of really struggling kind of at the kitchen table, doing homework and what should have been met with, compassion was met with sternness. And it was a challenging time for me to, be name called and to be put down and to have judgment and criticism, and that ultimately led to my core belief of I am a failure. And success didn't come easy to me. And I was in the 60s the entire time, all throughout school, and I had to kind of put in a lot of hard work to get to where I'm at today. And so that was kind of how I realized that the I am a failure was like my main core belief, which came along with like I'm not good enough and I'm stupid, things like that, that were kind of those self-deprecating beliefs that I was having about myself and my abilities.
Yeah, and I definitely admire your strength. Like, the EPPP is a 5 hour exam. It is a beast of an exam. I feel like I wanted to die doing that exam. So to have the strength to do that 11 times, like it speaks so much to how resilient you are. It's like what kept you going there?
It was really like my dream and my passion. Like I always knew that I wanted to be a registered psychologist, and that goal really was my passion. It's my purpose. It's where I'm supposed to be today. And I think the fact that I did persevere and overcome all of those failings and the depression and the challenges throughout the entire time that I did have that 6 years, I would say like it was a journey. It was a process, and I had to give myself breaks. I had to really learn how to cope with failing. I had to learn to ask for help, and I had to really kind of push myself out of my comfort zone to become vulnerable and admit that I couldn't do it on my own. Maybe time 8 that I was kind of like, okay, I have to do something different. So, I wasn't really sure, like there was a lot of self-doubt in the regards of like, is this really for me? Is the like should it be this hard? Should it be this challenging? Like, why can't I get it? I had started a study group. I think you were a part of that study group at one point, and
Yeah.
everyone else was passing, and I was the only one failing. And what else? What's going on? But I had to really look inside to be like, something's not clicking. And I think there's the fact that I struggled with school and I had to really learn how to like apply the information. There was a lot of different tools that I had to use in that journey of resilience, I guess, and perseverance. But it was really the passion that this is where I'm supposed to be. And at one point too, there was other options. I was looking at, a certified Canadian counselor or like a social worker, doing something else still in the field. And I was like, oh, this just like doesn't sit right for me. So, it really was the drive and the motivator to keep going.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I'm just like giggling because I remember like going when you're talking about that because, being such good friends with you and kind of walking alongside you in that journey. I just remember when it came to your third final attempt, I talked to one of my friends who was a Canadian counselor and you met up with her and I remember being like, Vanessa, no, like don't like you haven't even done the exam and you're already like preparing for that. Do you think there was any part of that for the third time of like almost letting go of the idea of maybe your dream was not going to be what you wanted that finally actually helped in your success
Mhm.
there?
Yeah, I think so too. Like I kind of was just like F it. Like at the end, I think there was like this acceptance. There's this point of like, I have to accept defeat. I have to accept that this might not be where I'm supposed to be, and maybe the universe is telling me something different. And I had to accept that I had failed so many times and that I guess it came down to that point of like, now there's this new rule, you have no choice. So at that point, it was like it was kind of a barrier that was out of my control. And so I really just had to ultimately kind of give in to the process and be like, we have to do this no matter what. So if you don't pass this, this isn't where you're going to be. And so I think I just kind of succumbed to the process. Whereas I realized looking back that I was so resistant. I'm like, why do we have to do this exam? This is a PhD level exam. We didn't learn half the stuff on this exam. Like there was a lot of resistance along the way. And it wasn't until I actually like let go and accepted that was part of, I think, fate of me passing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I love what you're saying there about just succumbing to the things that you can't control and just staying focused in what you could, which was your effort. Reminiscing from that time, I remember we talked on the phone and you had told me you passed, and it was just such a joyful, amazing experience. And I remember you had so many emotions at that time. And I think if I
Yeah.
recall, you were even like, is this like real? Is this the right paper? Like when you got it, something like that, right?
Yeah, did. I had to send a picture to my supervisor. I think I even sent a picture to you. It's like,
Yeah.
is this for sure? Like,
We
did I for sure
verify.
pass? Is
Yeah.
this my name on the piece of paper? Because that belief was so ingrained that it was hard to believe that I could be successful at passing it because I failed so many times. So it was almost as if the inevitable was to fail, and then that passing mark was just like a shock.
I think when we used to study together, when I feel like a lot of times I was like, I feel like you know this stuff way better than I do. Like, you know what I mean? When we study and it was kind of digging, it's like it wasn't never the knowledge. What really was that limiting belief that you were having and just kind of letting that go. Almost like defeated it by succumbing to it a little bit, essentially.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I think I also had to kind of reflect and be like, I'm not stupid. Like, I actually know what I'm doing. Like, I know this material inside and out. And like, there was
Yeah.
points that you're eating, breathing, sleeping this material, and you almost feel like a crazy person by I had sticky notes and papers all over my rooms and my walls, and like you're in this like EPPP institution.
Yeah.
And it was like, I'm like, so then I eventually kind of took down on this, all the stuff. And I was like, I know this information. Like I can recite this stuff. And I know you had helped me even after passing like your journey, which I'm like, it's funny because I look back, I'm like, I don't know why people want to help. Like when, this exam is so hard, why do they want to stay helping? And it was also like learning that I'm like, I deserve the help and that, people are really rooting for me. And I do have that community of resources and people in my corner.
Wanted to help you even when I was done my exam because I believed in you, right? And I believed you
Mhm.
could. I'm so glad that it all worked out and you're thriving now. How do you think facing that adversity, this experience has shaped the person you are today and how you view life?
Yeah, I'm a completely different person than who I was 6 years ago, or I guess longer than that now. But who I am at this point in time, it's completely changed my life. Like I'm so much of a different person in the regards of like I'm vulnerable, like I don't have my defenses up. I'm less critical of people that are out there. Like I have a lot more compassion for people that are failing, or that they're still feeling like they're not in control or that they're not good enough. And so there's a lot more empathy, so to speak, with regards to where I'm at. And I also have had to learn how to grieve, like the life that I feel like I did lose during those 6 years. I wasn't able to attend certain events or had to say no to things. Financially, it was a really big burden as well. So, I had to learn how to budget. And so, I had to move back in with my parents. There was a lot of things that I had to do and really let go of my ego, so to speak, during that process, which has really made me into a better person, and a lot more at ease. I'm a lot more of a humble person, I would say, so to speak, now.
Obviously, that is amazing characteristics to have as a psychologist, right? For your clients to have that empathy because of your lived, learned experience and recognizing that you have to really work hard for some of the things and not everything sometimes just comes so easy and making those sacrifices, right? But now
Yeah.
you are reaping the benefits of all that really hard work. But I love what you said about grieving that because that's something maybe wouldn't really come to mind right away about this whole process. Someone who's watching this going through their own struggle right now, what would be your advice to them on how to champion resiliency?
I would say to really connect with what your passion and what your purpose is. I think there's a lot of people who don't continue to do things because maybe it's a loss of identity or they don't really know who they are. And I think it would be really to question, like, hey, I know who I am. This is what I want. This is my dream. This is my desire. This is what moves me, what motivates me, what inspires me. So I think it would just be to really look inward and stop maybe focusing on the external societal pressures and really just look at, hey, here's where I'm at, and just meet yourself where you're at. It might be a small baby step, but or it could be a big leap of faith, and it could be a big jump into something new. But don't divert yourself away from the journey or from the process. Putting in the effort is really challenging. Same goes for therapy, right? If someone was to come see a therapist, we know that it's going to take time and effort, and sometimes in overcoming that challenge and becoming more resilient is the process of the effort and putting that in small steps.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and your strength and your resiliency on our series of Championing Resiliency.
Thank you. I appreciate that.